You're listening to the Viral Volley Podcast. Now here's your host, Rob, on the mic.
Hey, good day, everyone, and welcome over from the College Volleyball Weekly discussion over at volleyballmag.com. And we got our usual crew on: Dave Hunt of Pepperdine, Jay Hosick of George Mason, and Dan Friend of Lewis. Always waking up nice and early, unlike me this morning. But hey, you know, I've never claimed to be perfect. I'm hitting 500 right now. Hey, week 14 was a week full of a lot of action and some surprise results, but wanted to get your coach's take on what matches caught your eyes, because essentially for some is the last week of conference play. For some, you still have one more week of conference play, but we're looking at conferences and the NCAA tournament at this point. So I'm going to start with Dan Friend of Lewis. Any results catch your eye in week 14?
Well, our conference was certainly up and down between Thursday and Saturday. And so you saw, Ball State have a chance to win league, go into Loyola, and Loyola, beat them up in 3. And I think Ball State's only won there once in like the past 15 years, give or take. And so, and then there was this logjam of teams. And you saw a little bit of separation with McKinley kind of moving into 3rd with their wins. But then you got to Saturday, and it was us, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Ohio State all kind of tied for 4th. And you figure they're going to Loyola. Loyola's probably going to win league. They beat Ball State. Ohio State goes into Loyola and smokes them in 3. Statistically wise, Ohio State was good. And Loyola didn't have an answer. And from what I understand, they kind of, kept them off the net, and they were doing some nice things. And so Ohio State ends up getting that win, and we get through Lindenwood, but we have the head-to-head on Ohio State. But Ball State goes to Purdue, Fort Wayne, and they win that match. Then they win league, and they win it in 4. And the last game was tight. But so Ball State wins the MIVA. Loyola has it kind of slip out of their fingers right at the end, which that's tough for a group of guys when they were right there. And then McHenry's at 3rd. We're at 4th. Ohio State's coming to us. Purdue's at 6. Lindenwood's 7, and Quincy at 8. So our tournament field is set. So
look at that. I didn't have to read off the seedings. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
It's about time you contributed to this podcast.
Working on it. So
yep. Well, let's jump over to Jay over in the EIVA, because that's a hotly contested one. You've got the standout front runner in Penn State, but I think the entire world is vying for 2nd place in that conference. So Jay, tell us what's happening there.
Well, first of all, don't ever let the smooth taste fool you. Dan's a little happier than most that Loyola lost that match. So he's definitely keeping it quiet over there about how excited he is about that. So, the thing was, Penn State's still Penn State. They're going to be the top. They're hosting. They're undefeated. They're just really, really good. So we put them aside and compartmentalize them. We all thought that NJIT had 2nd place locked up. And then there were some upsets this past weekend. And all of a sudden things got real interesting 2 through 6. So, now you've got NJIT losing to St. Francis at Pennsylvania at St. Francis, and then losing the next night at Penn State now puts them at 6 losses. And now they're tied with Princeton. And Princeton is a team that right now is firing on a lot of cylinders. They are really, really good, hitting in a high clip. But the challenge we all thought was that Harvard was going to be the team that maybe would get 3rd place. And Harvard this last weekend ran into a buzzsaw with nothing to lose and everything to gain, named University of Charleston, West Virginia, who is 2nd from last in the conference, but played spoiler this weekend, beat them in 5 and a reverse sweep. And Lachlan Bray and Vorberger, who had been kind of non-existent in weeks prior, all of a sudden figured a few things out. And beating Harvard at Harvard is not an easy task. They're a good home team there. So, that all of a sudden causes some chaos. Princeton's now at a win-loss ratio with 3 or 4 other teams. And then you got St. Francis of Pennsylvania fighting for spots. And we had a couple of really good weeks in conference and fought our way into a tournament spot. So now we're in the playoffs. So all of us have solidified. Now it's going to be a real dogfight as to who can keep up the momentum and get into that 2nd place spot, because the 1st and 2nd seeds get a bye into the semifinals. And right now it literally is anybody's game. And it'll be real interesting to see who comes out after this weekend on top. But regardless, it's going to be a fun tournament nonetheless.
Yep, that number 1 seed and 5 number 2 seeds going right in. That should be a fun tournament to watch.
Pretty much.
Who does Penn State play this week?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I was looking. I thought I had it down here. I skipped them since they were locked at the number 1 seed. But
Charleston.
Charleston.
Gotcha.
There you go.
There we go. Nice. Okay, so I got I wasn't to drop in the Conference Carolinas first there because their conference is set. North Greenville at 1, King at 2, Mount Olive at 3, Emmanuel 4, Erskine 5, Belmont Abbey 6, Lee's McRae 7 and 8, Barton. And I think earlier in the year we were looking at Mount Olive and Belmont Abbey were at the top, and at the end North Greenville pulls it out. So since we don't have an analyst from the Conference Carolinas, I want to get your guys' take on what happened at conference this year. And we'll start with Dan.
I was just going to clarify. So the seeds 1 and 2 get 2 round byes. Is that how it goes a little bit? There's 2 playing rounds, and then they go. Is that how the tournament goes for them?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, I certainly think we talked about North Greenville and what they've done, and certainly Mount Olive might have a guy that's not playing that we thought was going to with them, and so that certainly does change dynamics on teams. But North Greenville has been great. I think King might be the sleeper. Just so you guys know, I think Kim had some injuries earlier in the season. He's their opposite, and he's come in and done some nice things the past month. So you could come see those guys kind of play spoiler as this conference tournament kind of ramps up a little bit, but should be good to watch.
Awesome. Dave, any thoughts, or Jay, on the Conference Carolinas?
Yeah, I just think injuries. I think Mount Olive was the team to beat, and some injuries have affected them. The scary thing is they could get healthy at the right time. I don't know the status of those. So,
yep. And Jay.
Yeah, no, Aziz, obviously being the big power hitter for Mount Olive, had an injury that has sidelined him for a while. And I agree with Dave. If he can somehow get back in at the right time and get hot, I think they're still the team to beat. I think it'll be them and North Greenville in the final. And listen, North Greenville has done a fantastic job this year, and Fred's really coached them up well. And and Dan's right. King is the spoiler alert. They could be a team that all of a sudden sneaks up on you if you're not prepared. And so I think it's North Greenville and Mount Olive in the finals. I wouldn't be surprised to see King in there as well.
Yep. All right. The next conference, actually, both the Western conferences seem like a mess, like the EIVA's number 2 spot battle, but MPSF was looking at the release, and it said conference champions UCLA, and the 7 seed is Concordia, but 2 through 6 are TBD. So let's start with Dave here on what's happening in the MPSF.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I know. And my head started to hurt when I was trying to do, all right, this team plays this team, and who's going to win here. So I think 2 through 6 is maybe a toss up. Maybe there's a little bit more separation between 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. But we'll see. We know that we're going to UCLA in a week and a half for the conference tournament. Everyone gets in the conference tournament. UCLA will get a bye, and we'll go from there.
Yep. Any thoughts to add on on the MPSF, other coaches, Dan or Jay?
Well, he's got you're at home, right, Dave, versus Stanford?
Yeah, we play Stanford, and SC plays Grand Canyon. So I know that's where it gets what happens in all of those matches. And I think Stanford has moved up now above BYU, maybe. BYU is.
If both home teams win their games at home there, will those 2 teams will end up second and third? Is that how that would be then?
I would think, if us and Grand Canyon, and then I think it would go down to a tiebreaker between us and Grand Canyon. You probably got to add up all the points that were scored.
Did you guys split?
Yeah, we split at their place. So 2 and 3, it would then come down to who would play at that point. Stanford, I think, would then play SC if that situation happened. Then Grand Canyon, whoever ends up second plays Concordia, and then whoever ends up third would play BYU.
Yep.
All right. I hope Rotman, doesn't take 90 swings on you, because you're going to lose.
Oh, he's going to take 90 swings. We're just going to try to make sure that he doesn't kill the ball 70 times.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just taking notes. I'm taking stop the swinger 70 times. All right, I got it. I just want to make sure. You know,
below
and
70 is the goal.
That's the goal. Well, and the weekend's matches coming up are potentially precursors to what the tournament's going to look like. You know, if teams don't do what they're supposed to, then there's potential that you're going to see each other the following week in the tournament. And as Dave always likes to say, he likes to see where the adjustments are made. And I would agree. That's going to be fun to watch it. If certain teams don't make adjustments in the first match, they're going to have to make them in the second, and it's going to be real fun to watch.
Yep. Well, let's jump to our other big West, or the big mess right now. You know, I was putting in some scenarios right now. Long Beach State sits at first with a 6-2 record. And then everyone else just kind of falls in behind with 5-4s, 5-3s. But there's still 2 more matches left for most of the squads, except for Santa Barbara and San Diego, who got a match on each other earlier on in the year. But, you know, looking at what could play out, that could be a mess as well if some upsets occur. Now, will they be likely to happen? Probably not. But, you know, I would have never called UCSD and UC Santa Barbara in the conference or the Big West Tournament finals last year. But that's why I have you guys discuss it. You saw the teams going at it this year. We still have 2 more matches in conference play. You have a hot Hawaii team now coming out of this weekend. Long Beach State coming off an upset loss to UC San Diego in San Diego. Santa Barbara got beaten twice by Hawaii. And Irvine got a couple of wins against Northridge, which, I mean, watching them play in 2 matches this weekend, they are a good team. They just, you can tell that month of training that they missed because of COVID, effects or things that happened in their program. They're there. You got a middle, Daniel Wetter, who had 15 kills, 0 errors until the 24th point of the 3rd set that Irvine ended up winning and sweeping the Matadors. But they have a good bunch of pieces. I feel like, and talking to Coach Campbell this last weekend, he's like, we're just going to go for the tournament run. You know, we missed that training, but we're good. I got some good pieces in place. I got a freshman setter who, and he's making the case that he could be one of the best in the nation. And what I saw that night, the decisions he's making, Donovan Constable, mm-hmm. He definitely has the potential to be one of the top setters in the nation a couple of years into his career there. So, but I want to get your guys' take because you're seeing the play and the athletes going at it in the Big West. So we'll start with Jake.
Well, I mean, listen, Irvine and Northridge are not bad programs. I don't think this is their year. I just don't think they have the weapons across the board. They can get hot, but I don't think those are the 2 teams that are going to make it far into the tournament. I think right now it's Long Beach, Hawaii, Santa Barbara, San Diego, and probably out of that, I think Santa Barbara and Long Beach will be the 2 teams that'll make it to the finals. Santa Barbara is just sneaky good. And they've been that way for a couple of years. They got some guys that can just bring it, and they're smaller players. They're scrappy. They run fast offense. They dig a lot of balls. And just Santa Barbara is just fun. I like watching them. You know, Hawaii is Hawaii, and obviously they've got, Tella as their setter, and he's really good. And they've got some nice pieces. Voss is a good guy in the middle, and they got a couple other guys. I just don't think they have the weapons. And Long Beach, listen, Nikolov is a man amongst boys, and I know he didn't have a great weekend this past weekend, but Long Beach, when it matters, I think is going to be a team that is in the hunt. And I've watched it, read a couple of articles not articles, but a couple of posts about, Knipe needs to run the middle more. He needs to run the middle more. I do think it does help when you can keep your offense a little diversified. If he can somehow figure out a way to get the middles a little bit more involved, that'll take some pressure off Nikolov when he has to perform, and maybe, then they can make a deep run into the NCAA tournament. But that's my thoughts.
Yep. Jump over to Dan.
Well, certainly the Santa Barbara San Diego game is going to be good. I know they played once already, but I think those are the two teams that are capable of making a push. But Hawaii, I think, is going to drop one at Irvine. They're going to come in, and Irvine's going to get one from them. But Long Beach is it's going to be at the Long Beach, right, for the Big West tournament. No, it's at Hawaii, right? Hawaii. That'll be the tough piece, I think. So, but Hawaii.
There's that elevation that Dan was talking about a few weeks ago that they got to worry about.
Elevation. Yep. So
negative elevation.
So, but it'll be interesting. to see the San Diego Santa Barbara. I think they both play great volleyball, and Kevin's got his group playing well right now at the same time. So,
yep. How about you, Dave?
All right, I'm gonna start making bold predictions for the NCAA tournament here. Hawaii has to win the Big West tournament, or else they don't get into the NCAA tournament, is my prediction. Now, I'm saying that because I think some other things are going to happen around the country. Looking at the MIVA, I think Ball State obviously is hosting, but I think Loyola ends up winning the MIVA championship. Okay, well, we'll see. I wish we could bet, but we'll see. I think that's what ends up happening, and I think Ball State gets in as an at-large because you can't leave out a team that only has 4 losses and beat Hawaii twice and all that. And then I think depending on what happens in the MPSF tournament, SC probably has the strongest case for an at-large. But it depends how they finish up here, right? They have to, if they get 3rd or 4th in the MPSF, I don't think they can make a case for the at-large. So then they have to win the tournament. So, and if UCLA doesn't win the MPSF tournament, they're my other at-large team. So Hawaii, I feel like, they've put themselves on the outside looking in of the at-large of the bubble race. That's just my perception, but I also think they're going to win the Big West tournament at home. So,
ooh, now if UC San Diego has something to say about that again, or Santa Barbara last. Yeah, that's what makes it crazy. But
I just don't know who bails Hawaii out when they're not playing well. So they had Rado last year. You know what I mean? And I don't know which guy, because Voss can't do it, which guy's bailing them out. And that's the piece. I think Nikolai bails Long Beach out. Macaulay bails San Diego out. So not San Diego, but or who's Santa Barbara's main guy?
Wilcox.
They each feel like they got a guy. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't know who's Hawaii's guy. So,
well,
I think Hawaii will play well enough to where they don't have to have somebody bail them out. I think they'll be a good enough volleyball team to play consistent volleyball through the tournament.
Listen, as a great coach once said, you don't win with great middles, you win with pins. And I think Hawaii, Galloway's nice. He's obviously a high flyer and he has a good arm, but I don't know if he's the guy that they can lean on at those moments.
Yeah. Well, Spiros Hakas has been wanting to stand in the gap for Hawaii as well. And he's been a super freak on the block. He just gets really good reads and can stop that opposite attack of whatever opponent they're playing. But inconsistency is what has really hampered the team's performance. But they got some really good pieces that can, put pressure on teams.
Well, Spiros, I think he's better than Chas. You know what I mean? So just in terms of the front pin. So I think Dimitri's kind of is that the opposite?
Muklius, yes.
Been a little up and down at times. And so,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, what matches are you watching this week? But I think honestly, with the way things are going for the tournament, we're watching everything. The only tournament that starts as a Conference Carolinas tournament, and that's the play-in round.
What about the MIVA?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, don't want to jump ahead. MIVA conference. Let's look at that here. What's going to happen there, Dan?
Anyway, we host Ohio State. Quincy goes to Ball State. Lindenwood goes to Loyola. And the one that, besides my own match, the match that's intriguing is Fort Wayne going to McKendree. And so I think Rock's got his group playing pretty good, even though they dropped the 4 in Ball State. But that'll be an interesting match. And there is no replay system down there. And that is the area we're talking about where there were some judgment calls possibly in our league this year. And so we'll see if that comes into play at all in this match right now. But and we've got Ohio State and they're hot. So I'm thankful we're home and I didn't have to go on a 7-hour bus drive. You know what I mean? In terms of that. So
your private jet. Come on, Dan.
Well, I talked to Birch. He's flying here. I'm like, well, must be nice. You know what I mean? So jump on their plane. You know what I mean? So
how far is that drive from Ohio State to Lewis?
6.5, give or take. So.
Oh my God, you're able to fly for a 6-hour flight or a bus ride? Wow, it must be real rough out there. Feel for you.
Dave doesn't know what we're talking about, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm really confused.
Dave just goes down the highway and goes to the team.
Dave can't even watch a full episode of a TV show on his iPad in the road trips he has to take. We all have to download numerous movies and shows and stuff and watch them on our iPads on our 6-hour bus rides while Dave gets to enjoy a coffee and that's it.
No, if Dave takes the bus during a rush hour traffic through LA down to UC San Diego, it could take 6 hours.
Oh, that's true. But Dave's not stupid enough to try to drive in rush hour traffic to go down to San Diego.
There you go. We're going down to Torrey Pines early, hanging out. Yeah.
You're gonna find the 19th hole.
Yeah, I might even go the day before just to check logistics. So.
Nice.
Well, again, we're going to look at the matches to watch, but it seems like all the matches this week are going to be watchable worthy, because with the Conference Carolinas, they're starting their opening round, Barton versus Erskine, and then Lees McRae over at Belmont Abbey. And they play in the 4-5 seed versus and the 6-7 seed in the next round, which is the following week. And then they go into their semis and finals. So, so one tournament is hot and running. We got a lot of races still to be determined here in week 15. But honestly, one of the matches I'm going to start off that I'm going to watch is Stanford Pepperdine, because there's pretty apparent, and I'm not saying because Dave's on the screen, but that team has so much firepower at the pins, and you got to love what Bryce Dvorak's doing setting wise on that squad. And of course, Stanford, kind of the hot hand and with a history of them coming back this year. And Will Rotman's, after his performance last week, I think that he's such a great performer. We saw him first 2 weeks of the season, and I'm going, this kid is outside hitter potential for USA national team. So I love seeing big bangers going at it. And I feel like this is going to be the big banger matchup between Jalen Jasper against his former team and Will Rotman of Stanford. So, but I want to get your guys' take. If there are any matches you wanted to drop in there, that would be must see, even though a lot of them are super important. We'll start with Dan.
All right. Well, my own batch. How about that? So.
Shameless. Nice job.
Shameless. I told you McKendree and Purdue Fort Wayne. That would be a match certainly that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. So outside of the MIVA conference, I think the UCSB UCSD match, that'll be exciting. See those guys battle at it again and go after it. So
where's that one at? That's at San Diego?
That's San Diego. Yeah. So, and I do want to see kind of how the EIVA shakes out. I mean, there's a bunch of different matches there. So it's just, does Sam pull Princeton? I don't know. They're all your tiebreaker scenarios, because there's got to be a few, you know what I mean, in terms of that. So, but I think the EIVA is going to get their tournament dictated. It'll be fun to see how that plays out for those guys. So,
yep. How about you, Dave? Besides your own match?
Yeah. I'm not going to pull Dan and say my own match. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of hot and cold on. I like watching the playoffs, right? So MIVA, but I also think some teams, like you mentioned about Campbell talking, or even in the MPSF, I think you're going to see some teams, hey, this is the last week for us to test some things out, right? So we know we're in the playoffs, right? I'm not saying us, Pepperdine, but I'm just saying coach's mentality will be,
yeah,
all right, we're in the playoffs. We're going to have to play tough teams regardless. We have to make a run. So let's see what we have to figure out about ourselves, and then let's rock and roll in our conference playoffs. So I think you're going to see some coaches doing that. So it's sort of like, all right, playoffs are when it matters, and that's when teams have to show up. So I'll probably be looking at the MIVA and then looking at Conference Carolinas once they get down to their Final Four.
Yeah. And Jay.
I think there's a few that I'll be watching. First of all, Dan nailed it with McKendree and Purdue Fort Wayne. I think Purdue Fort Wayne is getting hot at the right moment. That could be a little, not an upset, but a little bit of a sneaker maybe. The other one to watch, Loyola Lindenwood. I think Lindenwood has it in them to maybe sneak one out. Loyola just got trounced by Ohio State, and the question will remain, and I know Dave's shaking his head no.
Yeah,
the question will remain, is Loyola licking their wounds right now and able to get back on track quickly and handle the Lindenwood team that has had a couple of good wins over the course of the season? Those are the two there. I'm really going to be interested in watching Charleston against St. Francis of Pennsylvania, because Charleston has found a couple of things that they maybe didn't have over the course of the year. They're playing spoiler right now, and that's kind of a fun position to be in. They're not in the playoffs, but they can make things a little bit uncomfortable for people. And for St. Francis at the beginning of the year had a good start, and unfortunately have kind of cooled off a little bit in recent weeks, except for the win against NGIT, which was a big win for them in a reverse sweep. They were down 0-2 and came back and won in their house, which is fun. But right now, St. Francis of Brooklyn playing against Princeton or NJIT, I think it's one of those two. if they could sneak out a win or two, that's going to jumble up a couple of things in the EIVA playoffs. And you're right, everybody's fighting for that second seed, but I argue that the third seed or the sixth seed, which will be the first round playing against each other, are the better seeds to be in, because if you go past there, you won't see Penn State in the semifinals. You'll get to see them in the finals, and that's a much better spot to be in, I think, to go deeper into the tournament. And then you never know.
Is that what you're preaching to the team this week? I like it. See, that's what I'm saying. So you just want to make sure your team's playing good volleyball. You're not so concerned about the result.
Listen,
that's what you're going to see this week.
Yeah, the result is this, right? I have never and will never throw any match ever. It's
Correct.
just not my nature.
Correct. Yep.
However, my job is to take my team as deep into the tournament as I can. And so when you look at the way the seedings are, do you want to be fourth and fifth? Well, you're just going to kind of just play each other anyways. But then the next round, you got Penn State. They're hot.
Are you not home if you're a fourth?
Everybody's at Penn State at the final location.
That's where ours is so much different. Like Saturday, I'm playing to be home. I'm going to be home or I'm going to be on the road. It's like,
right. You know what I mean? Yeah, we went the Big West model, but rather than have it rotate every year to some other location, which I still understand how Hawaii's done it 2 or 3 times in the last 4 years. But regardless of that, the winner of the regular season gets to host the EIVA tournament. And so it's a Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. And yeah. I mean, you want to put your team in the best position to be successful. And if you can, everybody 2 through 7 is beating each other already. So if you can work a way to get into that round where you play a 3rd or 6th seed and then somebody else that you've beaten in the second round and get into the finals of the EIVA, one match, anything can happen. Do I think it's going to? I don't know. I don't think so. But you never know. Crazier things have happened. So
your first match was an interesting topic I'll bring up with you guys. So Parker Van Buren at Loyola, Nikolai at Long Beach, 2 freshmen that their teams rely on. Is there any other team besides those 2 in the country that are relying on a freshman to carry the load?
But you can't treat the Bulgarian as a freshman. His experience is well beyond freshman.
And I got that, and that's a valid comment by you. But I think teams sometimes, I'm curious with some of the teams that have these people in those positions, and there's probably a couple other teams I'm not thinking of, like how do those teams fare as they get to postseason? Where are the freshmen's legs, or where are the young guys mentality-wise? How do they come along in terms of that? Because I think that becomes important things for those teams. And like you say, Nikolai's got the international experience, so he's probably not phased. I mean, how does Parker handle with Loyola as Lindenwood comes in, and where is his weight? Because he's done a great job for them the entire year. You know what I mean, in terms of that. So
yeah.
Nikolav's a beast, plain and simple. I don't think there's any other freshman in the country that can carry that load. I haven't seen a lot of the teams on the East Coast, but they're all pretty much upperclassmen. Penn State, all those guys are coming back. That was a big announcement.
Don't remind me of that, please.
What is Camden? Is Camden a 4th-year freshman at GCU, or is that because I know he won?
Pretty sure he cannot win that award again. Just so you know.
Okay, I was just doing the math real quick. I'm not a math guy.
4th-year freshman of the year award. How about that? You can create that.
Nice.
Well, I wanted to add in some little news tidbits just because there's some things that happened this last 2 weeks since we didn't meet last week. But Nikki Sandlin McHenry, 100th win. Congratulations to her. Great coach in that program. I know we confused the coach of the year between Nikki and Dan here on the screen, but I think they look significantly different. So congratulations to Nikki. Also, in some of the volleyball family, I was looking at social feeds. Jesse Martinez, a very well-known, well-liked, well-respected referee, had a heart attack at a juniors tournament in Las Vegas, but he's recovering. Massive heart attack. And who was there to save him? Coach Brennan Dean of Torrey Pines and Wave Volleyball. His original court was 5 assignments away from where Jesse was assigned, who was just filling in at that tournament. But Brennan Dean went over, started applying CPR, and was able to save Jesse. So Brennan Dean, if you don't know who Brennan Dean is, he's coached a lot of the top female players in indoor and beach and at Torrey Pines High School with the first state championship. So good on Brennan Dean, and speedy recovery to Jesse Martinez. Also, Court 21 debuted this last weekend at UC Irvine. I have to put that in there in my home turf. Beautiful court, incredible story about Tim Vorenkamp, brother of Patrick Vorenkamp, who had a rare form, or Tim Vornkamp had a rare form of cancer, had committed to UC Irvine, was diagnosed, continued to play through, and ended up passing what would have been his freshman year at UC Irvine. So the Vornkamp family generously donated the Terraflex that's now being used for all UCI volleyball. So missed all that information, so we didn't meet, but exciting news nonetheless, and we have more coming up. So with that, I want to thank Dave Hunt of Pepperdine, Jay Hosick of George Mason, and Dan Friend of Lewis for coming on to College Volleyball Weekly, the Viral Volley Podcast edition. Good luck this week, gentlemen, and looking forward to the happenings in the next 3 weeks. Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Viral Volley Podcast. Be sure to follow Rob at Rob on the Mic on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or at robonthemic.com. Check you next time.